Cheers to the vinyl community and people strolling through YouTube. My name is Ty, and welcome to my YouTube channel. All right, I did an episode showing 6 albums that had a big impact on guitar players. Um, and it kind of one of the comments kind of got on the topic about how some music. Do you still listen to music? Because I mentioned in the video how sometimes I hear people say, "Oh, I used to listen to that music." You know what I mean? And I was saying how I still listen to everything I used to listen to, and me myself and my vinyl, great channel, go sub to him. He was saying, I mean, don't have that teenage angst so much. So, and I get that as like there sometimes there's just music that sounded different when you were younger. You know what I mean? And you hear it now, you're like, it doesn't hit so much as it used to, and that's happened with certain stuff. And when that happens, I don't completely abandon it, and I don't think anybody really does. I think it just get this a little lower. And so usually what happens is I won't listen to that genre for a while, and like Nirvana, shit, I probably haven't listened to Nirvana like for 3 to 5 years as far as like putting on an actual record, and then just of the last, let's say this last year off and on, but last few months was definitely listening to a little bit more Nirvana here and there, and definitely a music of my youth, and so then I would talk about some albums, a few more albums that were just real big albums that just had a big impact on you because I mean, back then the music I feel like was meant more a little bit as far as you didn't have quantity. You had what you had. Either you borrowed a cassette from your friend, or you had a copy, a cassette tape, and or you had to fucking hustle, mow some lawns, whatever you had to do to get your $10 to buy a cassette tape. Or like CDs were like $15 to $18 when they came out. Seemed like, if I remember correctly. So just like like your collection of your 5 to 10, 15, 20, however big it ended up getting, you listen to those albums a lot. So I think sometimes too is sometimes, yes, I mean, if there's some memories you don't want to go over again, I get that too. You know what I mean? I think I remember hearing one of my sisters saying it's hard for her to hear Pink Floyd because it reminds her of our stepdad, who's passed away and stuff like that. When I still enjoy hearing Pink Floyd. So there's those types of things happening also. So anyways, without going through that, and show these albums. Okay, this is one of the first albums where I really went out of my way to get this record. And this is back, I was in elementary school. And on MTV News, they were talking about Henry Rollins. And I already knew who he was, because I'm pretty sure the Rollins band was already out. But I could be wrong. Maybe they weren't yet. But I'm almost positive they were. Anyways, they were talking about Rollins, and they just showed this album when they were talking about him on MTV News. And how he was from Black Flag. And I had heard the name Black Flag because there was a drummer that lived in our house for a little while. It was semi-truck driver / drummer who was crashing on my mom's couch for a while. And he had mentioned Black Flag, how they would play like Watsonville Fairgrounds back in the day, back in the 80s. And he got to see them a lot. So I see them however many times. And like DOA would play, stuff like that. So seeing this album just looked fucking crazy. That picture, the name Damaged, Black Flag, the 4 bars. And yes, I have even the tattoo, and I have on my back says My War. So the only way you could get this rare album back in the day, this nobody had this in stock because Black Flag was still so underground. This has been like '92, and even at the Music Zone, which sold punk music, they didn't have any Black Flag on cassette tape, or I don't even think they had any on CD either. But there was this mythical white book that this place Music Zone had, and when I was a little kid, somebody once told me, some like hardcore punk people, like, if you're trying to find a really underground album that nobody has, the Music Zone can order any underground album. They have this giant white book, and it's the size of a phone book. If not, it might have been even bigger. But it was just white. But it was basically My dog's like trying to scratch my record. It's crazy. Calm down over there. This white book, it was like if you owned an independent record store, I think you had access to this book, and they could order. So I rode my 10-speed down there, this blue Schwinn 10-speed, which I got from my aunt who didn't ride it anymore. I had named it Mirthmobile because of Wayne's World, and ordered this. They could order. They opened the book, and lo and behold, they're like, we can order Black Flag Damaged. So they did. It took a while for it to come to her. Got a phone call on the old normal fucking phone, the house phone line, and pick up. Hey, it's Music Zone. Is Ty there? And I'm like, oh shit. They're like, yeah, your tape. It's here. And I almost had forgot about it because it seemed like it took a few months, I want to say. But maybe it only took like a month, and it seemed like a few months because I was so young at the time. So I rode back down there, and this is crazy. To get this one album, you couldn't just go on your cell phone and hit one button and hear it. This took months in the making. I had to hear about it. I seen a picture of it. Fucking, the whole story. So I'm riding my bike back down there, which this was like a 3-mile ride even. So it's kind of funny when your grandparents used to say I had to walk 10 miles to get to school. There's some fucking truth to that, because just to get this album, I had to ride 6 miles. Luckily not in the snow, but on a fucking blue 10-speed with the handlebars flipped upwards so you could be more cool. So anyways, I bring it home, and I was expecting this album to sound... for some reason, I thought it was going to be more metal. I had really no idea what, because of what I think maybe I was just judging a book by its cover, Black Flag, I don't know. I put it on, and my first impression was like, whoa, this guy's way pissed off. And the guitar playing was kind of sloppy because I was already a guitar nerd. But instead of just being like, oh, I don't like this, because it didn't just grab my ears. I was like, oh my gosh, this is genius. I was kind of like, let's just let it play. Let's let it play. And lo and behold, I could hear, I was like, man, even though this guitar player, what I liked about it was unpredictable. So in a weird way, I don't want to compare Greg Ginn to Frank Zappa, but his playing was unpredictable in that type of way. So, and Frank Zappa was more on purpose. This guy could have been more on accident. Regardless, the lyrics, the dude being so pissed off, kind of a sloppy guitar, but he was doing these riffs that were unpredictable, a lot of weird chromatic, tritone intervals. He was just not your typical... Not something like Descendants was a little more melodic, even a little kind of chromatic at times also. But this was like extreme on that one. And but man, this album reminds me so much of being a little kid, because I just kept listening to it because the album kind of meant a lot to me because it took a lot to get. So I was like, man, I'm gonna fucking really like Black Flag, and then I really got into it. And then I got the album My War, and that album was like, whoa, totally different than Damage. It was kind of slower. There's a song Nothing Left Inside, the song My War. My War wasn't so slow, but just totally different style than Damaged, in my opinion. But anyways, this is an album that I hadn't put this on in a while. I want to say I haven't put on Damaged in at least a couple years. I've been playing other Black Flag, but I was like, you know what? I just thought about the other night. I haven't put on Damaged, and I don't have the cassette tape anymore, that one. When I was a kid, I got CDs. I ended up loaning people that had cars with cassette tapes. Like, oh, you have cassette tapes? Let me borrow one or two. Which ended up being like my good friend Shan, and then my stepdad had put some in my mom's car also. I remember, because they had a cassette tape. So, if my memory serves me right. So, anyways, put this on, and gosh damn, it's like, gosh, it brings back some memories. And it's just a trip looking. The young little brain all into guitar. And but my point is, a few points here. Just because there was no internet and you didn't have the easy access, I feel like the music meant more. And that's what I was saying earlier, how the music meant more back in the day. It's not so much it means more, you had to go through more of an effort. So, what they say, the more blood, sweat, and tears, the better it feels, when you're at the mountaintop. And I feel that still rings true today. So don't take anyone younger and us older folk and freaking whoever, you know what I mean, don't take any of the music for granted now, how easy it is. And then just, you know what I mean, still remember how magical it was also. Okay. I'm going to try to go, let's just go with this one. This album, Primus, Pork Soda. You guys already know I'm a big Primus fan. It wasn't like I'm like, oh, only Primus. There was a time where I didn't listen to Primus for a long time also. Just had it felt like it. When their album Green Naugahyde came out, I got that and was listening to Primus. That was like 10 years ago. And every now and then get one of their new album, one of their albums I got to add to the collection. I would play it for a little while, but as late, I've just been feeling like the Primus again. And this album came out while I was at sixth grade camp, and I was able to bring Sailing the Seas of Cheese there. So that album reminds me of sixth grade camp. But I knew Primus was coming out with a new album. So as a kid, I was like, oh shit, when this was coming out, I knew I was going to get this. And one of the camp counselors, her name was Michelle. She played bass. I shouldn't be surprised if she played bass, but everyone knew she played bass. She ripped at bass. I wonder what she's doing now. Probably touring and shit. But she had already got the copy, and she was like, "Tell me it's fucking badass." And I think she was able to play a song for it. I got to hear part of it. As soon as I got back from sixth grade camp, luckily I scrounged the pennies together. I think I asked each one of my sister's friends for $1, and then told mom to kick down the old $5 bill. And, what I mean, if that was possible, if my mom was loving and sharing enough to where she had an extra $5, she was gonna, trying to get this crazy cassette tape. Poor mom, I'm being a little haggler here, like elementary school. I can't remember exactly how I even got the money, but that's. Looking back, it was like $2 from my dad, a few bucks from my sister's friends. I had change I had been saving, and then I was able to go and get the cassette tape. And holy shitballs, I put the album on, and it was. Usually, you don't want to have expectations when a new album comes out because you're going to be let down sometimes. Because usually the band's not going to write the album you wanted them to. But this was the album that if you were expecting what was to come next, holy shit, they did it perfectly. And it just, this whole album's crazy. The lyrics are crazy good. It had sound a little fucking creepy a little bit to it. Just a little eerie vibe to it. But Pork Soda. And when I hear this, it reminds me, even though I didn't listen to it at sixth grade camp, it just reminds me around that time. And hearing that one, I lived in my mom and dad's old studio that was in the garage. And it wasn't like this big old studio. It was just an extra room they just added in the garage. It was soundproofed. And it had a big dip in the back wall for all the recording equipment. So, anyways. So, next album. Pearl Jam. 10. Fucking. First off, great album. Most people know that. But you got to realize I'm going to try to think what was the first one. It was either Even Flow and Alive came out first on MTV, if I recall right. And it was one of those things to where you were like, you could not like Pearl Jam. It was hard for like everyone. It seemed like me and my little crew, it was like me and 2 or 3 other friends that were listening to grunge music in elementary school. We were like, man, this band Pearl Jam. Luckily, my cool teacher in 5th grade played bass, so he was asking us about Pearl Jam because the bass player had been, I think, in the bass magazine my teacher was reading at the time. But I can remember I wanted this tape so badly, and not wasn't getting any love on the foundation. And for Christmas, my sister, my older sister, she had a job working, I think, at a chocolate place. She was like a diehard. She was doing a newspaper route. She could barely ride a bike. That's how dedicated she was to trying to get her hustle on at an early age. So she's like, I got you a Christmas present. I wasn't even thing anything from my older sister because and it was this. I opened it and it was this album on cassette, and she was able to find a used copy at Music Zone somehow. But I didn't fucking even know or give a shit. The fact that she had got me that album blew me away. Looking back, I almost get a little teary eyed. But holy shit! So I listened to this album over and over and over again, and man, it was like Stevie Ray Vaughan. It had the guitar player's solos had a very Stevie Ray Vaughan-esque vibe. Jimi Hendrix. Really good tone. The songs were catchy. The drum player, the whole band ripped. And obviously, it seems like Eddie Vedder's almost that style is cemented in stone as far as it's kind of more. You hear other singers, you borrow that technique or that style, but at that time, this shit was new. No one was singing like Eddie Vedder until Eddie Vedder came out. It seems like, and it seemed like Pearl Jam was known as like the band that was not just good musically, they had like the best singer. Like it seemed like Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam were battling it out for who was top vocals. Kurt Cobain, I felt like he now looking back, Kurt Cobain has a great voice too, but Nirvana was kind of like wasn't just known for Kurt Cobain having a great voice. And then the band was kind of like it was like they're almost on a punk. They're almost kind of sloppy in a weird way, but still just as genius. But totally Pearl Jam and Nirvana, way different vibe. And it's funny how they seem like the media try to get them in a feud, and they're like Kurt Cobain and Eddie Vedder were like totally way too smart to fall for that bullshit. But it seemed like they weren't down for the whole corporate bullshit, even though they were involved in it. But this whole album was crazy good. So they had Even Flow Alive, and then the single Jeremy came out. And then that song, Everyone, that killer bass line, boo doo 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 doo, boo doo, bong bong. I'm pretty sure he was using an 8-string bass to get that crazy sound. I could be wrong, but it was the first time ever hearing harmonics done on a bass. Realistically, Jacko obviously had done that, but as a young kid hearing grunge music and not having hadn't heard the Jacko yet, you're like, wow, this album opened up a lot of fucking things for your ear, your ideas, and just being a good singer was like, having a good voice was badass, and so that was it. And then, as a bonus album, let me see, I was listening to it. Sorry, this is taking longer than necessary. We'll do one more. Mother's Milk. Holy shit balls. Okay. One of my parents' friend, when I was a little kid, this crazy dude, his name was Crazy Chris, actually, ended up calling him. But at the time, it was just Chris. And he brought this VHS of the Chili Peppers live in Japan for this tour. And it was before Blood Sugar Sex Magic came out. And so me and my best friend Justin at the time, who was already playing guitar also, I better not show this for too long, but some fucking titties. But we got this on cassette tape, which I have on cassette. I don't have the original one, but I still have my original Blood Sugar Sex Magic that I got for Christmas, actually, from my stepdad later on. But anyways, that album, Mother's Milk, we got a cassette tape, and it was a game. It was fucking blew our minds because it was funky, almost had some metal riffs in there. It's got the Hendrix. There's some weird fucking little edits where they're adding other songs chopped together, where you hear White Girl by the band X. There's that Pretty Little Ditty, which they play that on that live VHS. I don't have that here. It's at my cabin. I'm gonna grab it because it's been a while since I've watched it. It's not the Funky Monks one. That's when they're making the Blood Sugar Sex Magic album, but it's called, oh gosh, it's really good. It's not that long. It's only like a half hour long, maybe 40 minutes long. But as a kid, it was one of those things where I put it on when I was a kid. It was almost too weird. But it was like the next day I was at elementary school and I was like, I want to watch that again. Like I want to hear the music. It was on the verge of being too weird, but it was like I still wanted to hear it. And then it became less strange to my ear every time I watched that video. So when Blood Sugar Sex Magic came out, fuck, that shit was fucking super game changer, which I will go into that for a little bit. That was like, basically the first single that came off that album was Give It Away and Under the Bridge. So the two singles. But when Under the Bridge was like, holy shit. Like, nobody... So anybody as far as getting close to Hendrix without just being a total Hendrix clone... So you have Robin Trower. One of my guitar teachers, he was like my main guitar teacher that I had studied with the longest, John Sherry. He was like, he wasn't a Robin Trower fan. But I am. I was, and he might be now. Who knows? But he was like, you're just totally stealing from Hendrix. And this one's way off. It's now I can just see it. Sorry, but But when Under the Bridge came out, you were like, holy shit. It had a Hendrix-esque vibe to it. Just the tone, how pretty the song was. And then when you got Blood Sugar Sex Magic, holy shit balls. That album, Mother's Milk to that, some other milk, legendary. But yeah, Blood Sugar Sex Magic and watch the Funky Monks. I got that on DVD. You could stream that and watch it on YouTube. They probably have a full version of it. It's them in this fucking big old house. I think the Beatles had lived at sometime in L.A. and it just shows the whole process of them making Blood Sugar Sex Magic. And when we were little kids, it was stuff like that made me be a complete loser today. You know what I mean? So want to go down the musical rabbit hole, and it wasn't about for when you were kids, like you weren't so much, you were like, how did they figure out how to play this type of music? You didn't care about the popularity so much as or the money. You were just like, how the fuck all that, how like that's awesome that they get to have that or whatever, but it seems like that makes most musicians depressed in the end. But or most people in general, when you meet some of these wealthy people, not all, but so it was just like, how can you get this? How do they know how to make these notes match up and sound good together? You know what I mean? It was like when you love music so much, it was like this. You're watching magic. You're like, it's actually, there wasn't a trick. They were actually doing magic, and that's what I love about music. So to this, hey, my dog, she's going on. If she hears something crazy, she'll just go on little. I think the garbage truck's out front. Hey, come say hello. Say hello to the vinyl community. Show me your mohawk. She literally gets a mohawk when she gets all pumped up. Really? All right, we'll end it on that one. Cheers, everybody. There's no way I'm finishing this big old cup of coffee while I'm rambling on for another 20 minutes. This is pure torture. But stay positive. Play lots of vinyl. Throw some comments. Is there any stuff from your youth that you still listen to or you've kind of abandoned because you're like, you know what, it doesn't sound the way it used to because I feel so much differently now as an adult? Or does some of it mean more to you? Like, you know, some of this shit I cherish a little bit more. You know, who knows? I feel like your ear definitely evolves. I think it seems like everyone now who probably didn't listen to jazz enjoys listening to jazz now, which is awesome. And so who knows? Throw some comments and all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.